In the vast sprawling labyrinth of Tokyo, two lost souls, Bob and Charlotte, find each other. Their connection is fleeting yet profound, like the gentle brush of a passing comet. Their story in Lost in Translation serves as a reflection on existentialism, fleeting human connections, and the search for meaning in an increasingly alienating world. David Bowie's career was defined by transformation, but its most profound evolution happened in the late 1970s during his self-imposed exile in Berlin. At the time, Bowie was escaping the chaos of life in Los Angeles, drug addiction, overwork, and the overwhelming pressures of fame. He later admitted, "I felt utterly alone. I was surrounded by people but never felt more disconnected from life." Berlin, the city divided by the Cold War, became his sanctuary. Living modestly in a flat above a repair shop, Bowie found solace in his isolation, much like our characters in Lost in Translation. This period of reinvention produces Berlin Trilogy, 3 albums, Low, Heroes, and Lodger, that embrace themes of alienation, personal growth, and fleeting moments of clarity amidst chaos. And so, like Bob and Charlotte, Bowie's experience in Berlin was a study in contrasts. The city, with its vibrant counterculture and stark political divides, reflected his own inner turmoil. In Heroes, the story of two lovers meeting at the Berlin Wall serves as an anthem to fleeting beauty and hope against a backdrop of division and despair. Similarly, Bob and Charlotte find moments of connection in Tokyo, small pockets of meaning within their larger feelings of isolation. Bowie's time in Berlin wasn't just about escaping, it was about confronting himself. Through his music, he transformed his pain into art. Just as Lost in Translation transforms the disconnection of its characters into a poignant exploration of human connection. And with Bowie's journey in mind, let's explore the themes of Lost in Translation in 3 acts: the existential loneliness of modern life, the fleeting but transformative power of connection, and the unexpected places where we might find ourselves. Bob Harris lives the dream: fame, wealth, and a career that's brought him success. Something that's been desired by most of us throughout history. So to many, he's living the dream. And yet here he is, alone in Tokyo, questioning the purpose of it all. Meanwhile, Charlotte has a husband who seems more interested in his work than her, and she's just graduated, and unsure of what her life is supposed to look like. Both are isolated. Their lives lack substance and are full of unfulfilled expectations. Charlotte voices this directly in one of the film's most memorable lines: "I just don't know what I'm meant to be." This line resonates because it's so relatable. Whether it's a career path or a relationship, we've all faced moments of doubt like this in our lives, and some may be watching this feeling the same. Their alienation mirrors the existential philosophy of thinkers like Jean-Paul Sartre and Albert Camus. Sartre's notion of nausea, the unsettling, sudden awareness of life's lack of inherent meaning, permeates the film's quietest moments. Bob and Charlotte don't need to say much to express their loneliness, because their silence says everything. The setting also reinforces their detachment. Tokyo's vibrant streets full of flashing lights and large crowds massively contrast their inner subdued lives. Sofia Coppola's direction amplifies this alienation through lingering shots and a muted colour palette. The city becomes a character in itself, an overwhelming and unrelenting reminder of their insignificance. But maybe this isn't as dark as it seems. Viktor Frankl, a Holocaust survivor and the author of Man's Search for Meaning, argued that even in the darkest moments of our lives, we can find purpose by focusing on what we value most. He wrote, "When we are no longer to change a situation, we are challenged to change ourselves." Bob and Charlotte's subtle rebellion, stepping out of their routines and exploring Tokyo, reflects this. They're searching for meaning, but they don't really know what form it's going to take yet. Camus also believed that for someone like Bob, you can achieve everything you want, but meaning and fulfillment will always be beyond your reach. No matter how many commercials he does or trips he takes, there will always be something lacking. We can see him battle with that choice early on in the film with his role in the whiskey advert, fighting the place where his previous successes had brought him to. This idea mirrors Charlotte's quiet exploration of Tokyo. In one scene, she visits a temple and watches as locals engage in rituals. It's not a grand epiphany, but a moment of reflection, a small step to finding her own path. And sitting in quiet contemplation, she confronts the possibility that meaning isn't found externally, but cultivated internally. Existentialism then is rooted in the tension between the emptiness of our current lives and their desire for something more substantial. Bob and Charlotte's initial struggles highlight how a lack of clarity in life often serves as the catalyst for seeking deeper meaning. When life feels overwhelming, it's often the small choices that pull us back. For Charlotte, it's walking through the streets of Tokyo, observing the city's beauty. For Bob, It's rediscovering joy through moments like karaoke and late night conversations. This ties into Stoic philosophy, which emphasises focusing on what we can control. Marcus Aurelius, a Roman emperor and Stoic thinker, wrote, "You have the power over your mind, not outside events. Realise this and you will find strength." One of the most poignant examples of this is when Charlotte watches Bob sing karaoke. It's a seemingly small moment, but it's transformative. The song More Than This by Brian Ferry, sung by Bob during the karaoke, is foreshadowing the eventual parting of the two protagonists. Ferry was inspired to write the song during an aftermath of a breakup and was thinking about his past relationships while writing the lyrics. Charlotte's ever-growing and unspoken feelings for Bob are not crushed by this experience, but the unspoken truth that there will never be more is realisation that there are circumstances outside of her control that she will need to realise. For Bob, singing More Than This isn't just karaoke, it's a sign of vulnerability. He's a man adrift. His marriage has lost its spark, and he's in a career that's becoming increasingly more hollow. And yet, in that moment, as he sings, he shares an unguarded version of himself with Charlotte. His voice is shaky, imperfect, but authentic. It's one of those rare moments where Bob actually steps outside his usual detachment and allows himself to feel present. The choice of song is telling. More Than This suggests the longing, but also resignation. He knows the connection with Charlotte can't extend beyond these days in Tokyo. Yet instead of resisting that truth, he embraces the moment for what it is. No more, no less. This ties directly into the Stoic idea of amor fati, the love of one's fate. Bob accepts the transience of their connection, and in doing so, finds peace in its beauty, rather than the despair of its impermanence. The karaoke scene becomes a form of catharsis for him. For Bob, it's proof that even amidst personal emptiness, there's still room for joy, tenderness, and vulnerability. As Marcus Aurelius might put it, he's found a small space where he can exercise control, not over his circumstances, but over how he responds to them. He chooses to be there, singing awkwardly, but sincerely, connecting without words. When you arise in the morning, think of what a privilege it is to be alive, to think, to enjoy, to love. Bob's moment of singing, and even the quiet understanding he shares with Charlotte afterwards, is him rediscovering that privilege. It's fleeting, yes, but it's real. The beauty of their bond lies in its simplicity. In an age full of grand romantic gestures and social media, Lost in Translation reminds us of the quiet power of small moments. A karaoke night, a walk through the city, and a whispered goodbye. These scenes underscore the idea that connection doesn't have to be eternal to be meaningful. However, while small moments can spark change, they're not always enough on their own. Sometimes we need to confront the larger issues, whether it's a failing marriage or a career that no longer fulfills us, to truly move forward. This is reflected in Bob's struggle with his distant marriage. Even as he finds happiness in Tokyo, the phone calls with his wife reveal a deeper story, and one that he will eventually have to address once he leaves. The burden of resentment weighs heavily on Bob. He feels out of touch with his family, and they with him. It's a symptom of his success that his family has developed an immunity to his affection and attention. A connection once nurtured, now atrophied by distance, time, and emotional neglect. When he tells his wife, "Only if you want to," there's more than indifference, it's resignation again. Quiet, unspoken acknowledgement that neither of them is willing to bridge the divide. This moment tells the story of unrequited connection in his marriage, and it's this absence, this hollow space, which allows him to build his rapport with Charlotte. A spark of vulnerability shared between two people stranded in their own lives, lighting a fire that could change them both. But here we find something interesting. The Stoic response would be to accept the circumstances, to recognise that Bob has no control over his wife's feelings, or the fading role in his family life. The Stoics would say, let go of what you can't control, and find peace from within, as Marcus Aurelius stated earlier. And yet, Lost in Translation offers a subtle opposition to this thinking. Bob's connection with Charlotte is not born of passive acceptance, but active vulnerability. He does not find solace by withdrawing inward, but by reaching out. Risking intimacy, risking connection, risking pain. Brené Brown argues that vulnerability is the birthplace of love, belonging, joy, courage, empathy, and creativity. Bob chooses to engage rather than detach. His willingness to be seen and to see Charlotte in return is what reignites his sense of purpose. And Charlotte too finds herself at the crossroads between retreat and risk. Her marriage to John is marked by silence, distance, and the aching loneliness of being unseen. Early in the film, she confesses over the phone, "I don't know who I'm married to." It's an admission of a life lived in detachment, unsure of a place or value. But with Bob, she dares to express her uncertainty, her confusion, and her longing for meaning. Together, they create a pocket of space where both can be witnessed without judgment. So it's not the stoic detachment that offers healing for either of them, but the courage to embrace uncertainty and human connection. In opening up to one another, they remind us that the purpose isn't found in isolation. It's born from the willingness to be vulnerable in the presence of another. Where Stoicism urges us to endure, the film asks our characters to engage, to step beyond what they can control, and to risk being hurt again in order to feel alive. It's the possibility of more than this that makes life painful and beautiful. Small moments can influence the future, and in doing so, enduring hardships teaches us what we really need to grow. Bob and Charlotte's journey shows us that while joy and reflection are important, true change often comes from confronting and understanding our struggles. By the end of the film, Bob and Charlotte aren't the same people they were at the beginning. Their time together has given them new perspective, not necessarily solutions, but clarity. Yet clarity alone does not guarantee action. Lost in Translation suggests that connection shouldn't really be accepted, it should be pursued, even if it's fleeting. And while Stoicism urges us to surrender to our fate, there is undeniable power in stepping forward, in reaching out despite the inevitable loss that follows. Final whispered goodbye between Bob and Charlotte is the culmination of this philosophy. In that moment, Bob does something entirely unstoic. He makes a choice to shape his reality rather than merely enduring it. His whispered words, whatever they may be, are not passive resignation. They are an affirmation of everything they shared, and a final attempt to preserve something before it disappears entirely. This recalls Jean-Paul Sartre's concept of radical freedom in being and nothingness. Sartre argues that we are condemned to be free, that every moment presents an opportunity to define ourselves through action. Bob's choice to seek Charlotte out one last time is a defiance of passive acceptance. He doesn't let fate dictate the moment, but he carves meaning into it. Much like Charlotte's decision to let herself feel deeply for Bob, despite knowing that it must end, their relationship exists in defiance of stoic detachment. Before meeting Charlotte, Bob was living in a passive state. He was enduring rather than engaging in life. His final moments in Tokyo are a transformation of this. Had he simply returned home unchanged, his life would have remained a constant cycle of detachment. By choosing to connect even in the face of impermanence, Bob asserts a newfound agency. His whispered words to Charlotte signify this shift. It's not a grand revelation, a recognition that meaning is something we create, but not something we wait for. The poet Rainer Maria Rilke captures this paradox of temporary connection in Letters to a Young Poet. Let everything happen to you, beauty and terror. Just keep going. No feeling is final. This is a contradiction that Lost in Translation wrestles with. The depth of their bond is not found in suppressing emotions, but in fully experiencing them, even with the knowledge that they are impermanent. Their connection, much like life itself, is made meaningful by its fragility. For Bob, this realization is crucial. His whispered words to Charlotte are not just an ending, but an acknowledgement that what they shared mattered, no matter how brief. In a modern world defined by transience, relationships forged online, careers that shift with the economy, or even fleeting travel friendships, contribute to a larger, richer emotional landscape. The film reflects this reality. Meaningful connection is not defined by duration but by depth, and technology has made connections simultaneously easier but more distant. Long-distance relationships thrive on video calls, yet digital connection lacks the warmth of having someone next to you to connect to eye to eye. Online communities provide companionship, but often fail to replace the depth of face-to-face interactions. This mirrors Bob and Charlotte's dilemma, finding solace in something that cannot last, but still choosing to embrace it. And yet, as the streets of Tokyo blur behind Bob's departing taxi, we are reminded of one last thing. All things must pass. If Sartre argues for freedom, and Rilke argues for embracing the moment, then Marcus Aurelius offers the final judgment. Set whatever comes to you woven in the pattern of your destiny. So what could more aptly fit your needs? The question remains, does Bob truly accept his destiny, or does he redefine it? Perhaps it's both. His actions suggest not a blind resignation, but an acceptance that life's meaning is shaped by how we choose to engage with it. In his quiet way, Bob reconciles stoic endurance with the necessity of human connection. His story is not about love lost, but love understood, cherished for what it was rather than mourned for what it could not be. So what are we meant to take from all this? Are we meant to pursue connection despite its inevitable loss? Or should we, like the Stoics, accept that all things must pass? The film does not dictate an answer. It only asks us to sit in the discomfort of the question. Perhaps the greatest lesson is that both perspectives can coexist. We can seek out meaning in fleeting moments, while also embracing their impermanence. The balance lies in not choosing one path over the other, but learning when to hold on and when to let go. In a world increasingly shaped by digital interactions, Bob and Charlotte's story serves as a poignant reminder that real connection, whether brief or lasting, requires presence, vulnerability, and intention. We live in an era where we can speak to anyone, anywhere, yet loneliness persists. Lost in Translation urges us to consider, are we truly engaging or merely existing in parallel? The answer, much like Bob's whispered farewell, is left for us to interpret. We must dare to feel even when it hurts, but we must also know when to let go. As Bob and Charlotte part ways, they do not grieve in despair. They smile, not because the goodbye is easy, but because the experience was real. Because in the end, it was never about forever, it was about now. And in that final moment, the weight of their parting is softened by what remains. A memory, a whisper, a song that will remind them of each other long after the moment has passed. And just as a photograph fades with time but never truly disappears, so too do the connections that shape us. And perhaps, in that fleeting nature, there is something permanent after all. In his later years, David Bowie spoke about the concept of being in flux, of never quite arriving but always evolving. He once said, "I don't know where I'm going from here, but I promise I won't be boring." Bowie's ability to embrace the unknown, to find meaning not in the end result, but in the act of becoming, mirrors the essence of Lost in Translation. For Bob and Charlotte, Tokyo becomes a liminal space, a place where they aren't who they were, nor who they will be. They're caught in the in-between, searching for answers that life doesn't always provide. Maybe that's the point. The film doesn't tie everything up in a neat bow. Bob whispers something to Charlotte and we're left wondering what he said. It's a moment much about what's unsaid as what's said. And life, like that whisper, is often unfinished. It's in the gaps, in the silences, and the uncertainties we grow. Consider the Voyager spacecraft. Launched in 1977, it was never expected to travel beyond our solar system. Yet decades later, it's entered interstellar space, carrying a golden record, a message in the bottle to the cosmos. And we don't know if anyone will ever hear it, but the act of sending it out into the unknown was in itself meaningful. And like Voyager, our life is filled with uncertainties. We don't know where we're headed and we may never find the answers. But Lost in Translation teaches us that the act of searching, connecting and evolving is where meaning is created. Charlotte's quiet moment at the temple, Bob's laughter in the karaoke bar, and that final whisper. They're all reminders that life's most profound moments often come when we stop trying to find definitive answers and simply embrace the journey. Because just like Bowie's ever-changing persona, just like Bob and Charlotte's finding solace in each other's company, we are all on our own journeys, navigating the ever-shifting landscape of our lives. To reconcile with the complexities of modern existence, we must look inward, trust our own compass and embrace the path, wherever it may lead. After all, whether it feels like fate or we carve it out for ourselves, it's the journey itself that teaches us who we truly are.